101 Awakening. Welcome to Max Piers Brotherhood. So I'm listening to Max Piers explaining about, on my post of 8A, I said about children are being tracked, and inside of us, you had that duality inside of you that if you came down here as a male or a female soul, that body that you inhabit is now programmed to grow with you as another child, but of the opposite sex of you. It's funny, when I was watching Max Piers long ago, everything that he was saying I can relate to. I understand it. And that's one of the processes that once you awaken your soul, especially us that are on the first wave that came in, that he's explaining in the 1950s and the 1960s, and I was born in the 60s. So they tracked us down based on what I explained and what Max Piers is about to explain. So if you listen to my post of birth certificate rights, part 8A, that will explain to you who you are on earth. And it will make sense when I post this from Max Piers, as if he's talking my language. We are talking the same language. So obviously, after listening to him, I know he's an awakened soul like me, because I also had the same information as him, except mine, I was drawing it for you guys so you could really see what is going on. So I'm not really making it up. It's actually a known fact. By the Cabal, they know how this works, and now we're just releasing it to you guys so you can actually hear how you've been puppeteered by the oligarchs of all your lifetimes. Not just here, but different civilizations of your soul. So until such time you learn what I learned and what Max Piers learned, you're not gonna fully ascend to oneness with God, because that's what it is opening your mind to the reality of truth. So listen to Max Piers now.
For 50,000 years, really. And so there was an influx in the 1950s and the 1970s of higher vibrational beings. The controlling consciousness that is in charge at this moment of this planet is what is and are aware of every incarnate being that comes into this planet. Through sexual union between a male and a female, energy is then sent up and vibrates up through frequencies. They have technology to be able to see where, and then a soul is then attracted to a lifetime. And then the soul will then, this is just one way, a soul will then come to the womb of the mother, and they can track this. They can track this from happening. Okay, so in the 1950s, there was something called Project Oak Tree. Project Oak Tree, this is the truth about Project Oak Tree. Project Oak Tree, the oak tree itself is symbolic of Lucifer. They use the term oak tree. Oak tree is synonymous with Lucifer. So in the the controlling power that has at this time power over this planet is aware that there are very, very, very powerful beings. I don't know what you would want to call them, demigods, gods, whatever you want to call them, that there was an influx of them coming. So they didn't know where and when they were going to be here, but they needed to find a way of tracking them. So in doing that, the oak tree was to find the female carriers in the 1950s. For the females, they had to be specific females that would be able to carry such powerful beings. So it's called oak tree because, I mean, they were looking for a number of different beings, but they were primarily looking for Lucifer, because they're following revelations from the Bible as a script. So they're following it to a T as a script. So they are looking for that child, that was born in the 70s to then continue I suppose you could possibly call, I don't know this for a fact, but I suppose you could possibly call Lucifer maybe the Antichrist. I don't know. That's a possibility. And so they needed to make sure that they got that correct. They had been looking for, there was about 4 or 5 different boys that, and they weren't sure which one was that one. Each one of these children has also incarnated into multiple lifetimes beforehand. For example, Thoth in Atlantean times.
W czasach Atlantydy Thoth
In Atlantean times was king and ruler, and he ruled for 50,000 years throughout Atlantis. So if we're looking, if we go back 13,000 years, okay, which will take us to approximately 11,000 BC, let's say 11,000 BC, there was a very similar situation that is happening now, that was happening then. A potential cataclysm that was going to happen then. I think what they think is, if they bring back everybody in this room was there back then too. You wouldn't be here listening to me speak if you weren't back there then at that time as well. You're magnetically drawn to this particular area now, and into this room now, and to the speakers in this room now, because you subconsciously know that we are now repeating a cycle again. Everybody in here knows each other on some level. Okay, so what they wanted to do at that time as well. You're magnetically drawn to this particular area now, and into this room now, and to the speakers in this room now, because you subconsciously know that we are now repeating a cycle again. Everybody in here knows each other on some level. Okay, so what they wanted to do is they think that they can stop the cataclysm that happened when Atlantis fell. Atlantis Atlantis wasn't some idyllic paradise. It also had wars, and it was also, there was negativity went on there, but it was a far more advanced civilization than the one we have now. So in genetically manipulating and taking DNA from here, taking DNA from there, taking DNA from there, they were okay. In addition, okay. So we have Project Ibis. There's also a female parallel project to it, where they were trying to bring in female deities too. They were looking to bring in the partners of the males from Ibis. They were looking to bring in the female partners to pair them up with the males. So if they took, for example, let's use the example of Isis. They went and took DNA from the tomb or the body of Isis, and then they manipulated it and then placed it into some women's wombs are stargates, are stargate openings. Okay, so they also have the knowledge of which women's wombs are stargates. So then by manipulating DNA, placing this here, placing this there, then placing it into the womb of the female, then they can draw through the stargate if the child is born at the exact time and the exact date, and then they can draw that entity into and then birth. Okay, so we're understanding that the female is the receiving energy and the giving energy. So through sexual union, the male, if it's done, obviously there are 2 ways. One is naturally a male and a female coming together, and then the other way is the manipulated way, where they track through Project Oak Tree to find these. I think there's only very few very, very, very few women who have these specific stargates, let's say 11 stargates in their wombs, and they found those and they tracked those. The parallel project for the females, the females were born in the 80s, and the males were born in the 70s. When they place the child into the so the mother has the child, they've got to make sure that the child doesn't look completely different to its parents, otherwise it's going to look very, very bizarre. So what they do is they take small amounts of DNA from the carrier mother and small amounts of DNA from the supposed father, and then put that also integrate that into the child. This was primarily an MI6 project, but it was called MI7 Zygote. It was called the MI7 Zygote project. Okay, so when people talk about MI5 and MI6, MI5 would be the UK that takes care of what happens in the UK. MI6 would be the international that takes care of international. But what most people don't know is there is MI1 to MI9.